and welcome to Disaster Zone, a show about emergencies and disasters that can happen anywhere at any time. And what does it take for a department to be a nationally accredited emergency management agency? Well, the King County's Office of Emergency Management recently earned an accreditation that is considered the gold standard of public and private agencies. Joining us today is the Deputy Director for the Office of Emergency Management, and that's Jody Miller. And Jody, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on getting this accreditation.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
We're going to talk about that, but it's not easy.
No, not at all.
I mean, it's not kind of like handed out on the street corner as candy and that. So it's a labor of love and writing, right? But, you know, for our viewers here, and some people just tune in, they don't know anything about the King County Office of Emergency Management. You know, describe the mission, function of the organization, how many staff does that include?
Sure.
Those types of things.
Okay. Well, kind of simply put, what King County Emergency Management does is we're really providing a regional leadership role to promote really resilience within our community and ensuring that everyone has access to emergency services. So it's about inclusion, it's about coordination, and doing a host of different things in the disaster world. Our function is really to support more of what people would consider traditional emergency responders, kind of the folks that wear badges.
Yeah, police and fire, emergency medical
making
services.
sure they have what they need, coordinating with other King County departments, and coordinating with all of the cities in King County to ensure we're working together and everyone has what they need in a variety of different issue areas. It can be everything from prevention and mitigation and what we are probably most familiar with in preparedness, getting ready for all the multitude of things that can happen around here. Okay. And then, of course, being able to really respond and recover from what might happen. Yeah. So just a host of activities. Most people are familiar with the response role when it comes to disasters, but there's so much more that goes on. And we have a small but mighty team of 18 people that serve, the population of King County is more than 2.1 million now. So this is a small team that does a lot of great work, and they have great hearts and want to do the best they can for their community.
Okay, and then how do you interface with Washington State Emergency Management and then FEMA? I mean, how does that happen?
The systems are linked, and what's nice is the way emergency management works is a lot of people don't know it really exists at the local level. Right. They understand the acronym FEMA, but that's
Federal
about
Emergency Management Agency.
Correct. But they don't realize that emergency management really exists at the local level, in the cities, in the fire districts, in the counties. And the way we work is we ensure at the local level that we're taking care of, and should some incident exceed our resources and capabilities, we then are in direct coordination with Washington State Emergency Management, as are other counties throughout the state, and they support us. And then that goes up another level if the state becomes overwhelmed, say with a Cascadia type earthquake event, then FEMA is engaged from the very beginning, but then they can provide resources to support Washington State and other states if necessary. So it's a very nice linkage. We work very closely together on a day-to-day basis, so we're pretty familiar with each other's operations. And then when the bad thing does happen, we're there to help each other out.
And you talked about this coordination role. I know sometimes FEMA's gotten this, not necessarily a black eye from this, but they say, people saying, where's FEMA in a big disaster? Well, they're a smaller agency, they like you, they're coordinating. So you're not out on the scene typically. So where are you in King County? And you kind of describe that facility for
Well, when we have an emergency, we activate what is known as an emergency coordination center. So we have about a 3,600 square foot facility in the Renton Highlands where our emergency management staff, as well as representatives from those professional response agencies like police and fire, EMS, Public Works, county departments come together, and we work in a room And we basically support all of the activities that are going on, what we call field activities. So if there's a flood and people are being rescued, the people in this room are coordinating with those out on the water's edge and getting them the resources they need. We're sharing information with people. We're letting residents know where it's safe and where it's not safe. And we're coordinating with elected leadership throughout the county so they understand everything that's going on and giving them information so they can make good decisions, especially if we face a situation with scarce resources.
Okay. So really, emergency management is not the oldest profession in the world at all. It's relatively new, even following World War II, coming out of civil defense. But where are we now in the development of emergency management as a true profession? In your opinion, I mean, I'm sure other people might have things, but it's only recently standards have come up for individuals and then for actual agencies like yours. Just share where you think the profession is today from an education standpoint, and then this whole piece of certification of individuals and accreditation of people.
Certainly.
Or of agencies.
And Eric, I think you're exactly right. I think people were familiar with the civil defense era. Yeah. And then we entered into an era where emergency management got started, but kind of no one really knew what it was. Yeah. And I think it wasn't really until some catastrophic incidents happened, and Hurricane Katrina is probably the best example. I'm sure there weren't many that really heard of the Federal Emergency Management Agency before that, but then it became a common name that everybody could throw around, but still no one really understood what it was and maybe didn't even know it existed again at the local level. So I think as time passed and post 9/11,
and the terrorist attacks in
9/11. Correct. More and more people started to pay attention to emergency management, and it became more well known that the discipline existed. And very honestly, again, in my opinion, it started as a community made up of professionals who left other disciplines.
Secondary careers.
Right. Yeah. So retired firefighters, police officers, military. Exactly. Yes. All this wealth of experience came together, and because they had like skills, started doing the very important work of emergency management. And so to a certain extent, I still think that exists. I too came from another discipline. Right. So which was my background was in journalism.
All right, there you go.
Right,
Public
so
information officer.
Yes. Okay. So I worked my way into emergency management, but now we're starting to see more and more degree programs come out of higher education. Yeah. So we're seeing certificate programs, 9 months to a year investment of time. We're seeing associate's degrees. It's usually up to about 2 years of investment, maybe at a community college level. And now we're seeing more bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, and even a smattering of doctoral programs that are related to emergency management. So the great news is we are getting a ton of very well-educated people in the theory of emergency management that are coming out of higher education.
Okay. And then kind of describe this certification of people, the certified emergency manager, and a little bit of EMAP history.
Right.
Emergency Management Accreditation Program.
Sure. Well, with being such a new discipline and people coming from a variety of different disciplines, a lot of those disciplines do involve some kind of standard, whether it's for an organization or an individual. If you reach a certain rank, you've done a series of things to earn that rank. If you are in a variety of different areas, you have certain credentials attached to your name. Okay. So in emergency management, through the International Association of Emergency Managers, they created a certified emergency manager program. Yeah. So
for an individual.
For an individual, right. So it wasn't just saying, I have 10 years of experience and I'm great because I say so. Yeah. You can showcase, you can go through a certification programs where it not only outlines courses that you need to take, but you need to show that you have policy experience, that you've gotten involved in the legislative process, that you've done public speaking, that you've done a host of other things other than sitting in a class and learning the theory of emergency management.
Okay.
You have to show that you have been involved in activations and have actually responded to things. So it makes for a well-rounded emergency manager, and if you meet these credentials, you get to use a CEM certification for Certified Emergency Manager.
And then what we're here today talking about is this agency, accreditation.
Right, and the Emergency Management Accreditation Program is the only program in existence for our discipline. So I'm not sure of the exact start date, but the organization gathered a group of professionals who had been in emergency management for a long time and said, regardless of where you go, whether it's a one-person office or a 50-person office, what are the key things that an emergency management program must have? So years of work and going through a very stringent the standards process. The acronym is ANSI, and I can't remember what all the...
ANSI?
Yes, but it's a formalized standards program.
Development program.
Correct, that is used for not just emergency management, but any standards that are developed.
Yep.
So a very rigorous program to outline specific things that a program needs to provide the best possible service to the residents of an area. And what's really nice about that is you can, again, like the individual, you can have a program that says they do wonderful things, but you want to see proof.
Yeah.
And also for the sustainability of programs, what many programs face, and I think this goes beyond emergency management, you can have a lot of brilliant, talented people walking around who don't need plans or procedures. They just do the work and they know it and they're fantastic. But what if they're not available?
Yeah.
What if something happens? You know, but we have to let people go on vacation once in a while. Life happens and you can't be available. So really forcing a program to look at documentation not only helps you find gaps in your programs and allows you to fix them, but it provides a framework to sustain your program into the future, and that's what's really important to me.
Okay. Well, describe briefly, and we're going to come up on a break here, but you know, how, you know, there was an inspection team, they came, how long were they here, what types of things did they look at?
It took us a couple of years to really get through the entire process. The first step is...
To prepare for it.
Right. It's a self-assessment. And this is what I used when I joined King County a little over 2 years ago. This was the foundation I used to really get to know the program and find out where the gaps were. Yeah. So as we started to do our self-assessment and looking through these 64 different standard areas, and that includes planning and training and communication and warning, administration, just a host of different things. As we did that, we had to identify where the gaps were. We had some work to do. We had documentation to gather. It took a long period of time. Then an assessment team came in, made up of volunteer emergency managers from around the country who have pretty high level of experience.
And they're not known by you. These aren't your friends.
No, they are not friends, and they purposely make sure that the assessment team is not made up of people you know. Right. So they're independent assessors that come in on a voluntary basis, and they comb through all of your documentation during a week. They were here at the end of February and finished up on March 3rd. But they don't just look at paper. They're conducting interviews with regional partners and county partners, and they are having you do demonstrations so that you can show them you can really do what you said you could do on paper. So it's a very rigorous process, and I'm very pleased to report we received 100% compliance within that week's assessment.
Well, we're going to go back and talk more about what that means of 100% compliance of 64 standards. Just think about that, everybody at home. So we're going to discuss this more, find out what went into that, the level of accomplishment that this means, and what that means for people living and working in King County. But Before we do that, we have a message for you, so watch this, and then we'll be right back with more.
As a mom, it's your job to prepare for this. Your children rely on you for safety and health. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and you need to be prepared.
For more information on catastrophe preparedness, go to makeitthrough.org.
Hello, I'm Eric Holdeman, host for Disaster Zone, and our show today is about the King County Office of Emergency Management becoming accredited as Emergency Management Accredited Agency, EMAP, we call it, program. So before the break, we were talking about ANSI, and that's the American National Standards Institute. So
Yes.
we were just saying, Alexa, we asked Alexa here what that means, and we got that. So congratulations on getting that.
Thank you.
Explain just a little bit what it means. You met at 100%. I always say, sometimes people are strong in one area, weak in another. What's it mean to be 100%?
It meant a lot to us. I'm actually an assessor for the program as well, and
For other agencies.
Yeah, correct. So I will travel and go do this for other programs throughout the country and some internationally, and it doesn't happen very often. Yeah. Typically, there are always a few standards where some more work needs to be done. Programs still achieve accreditation, but it's extra special when you reach 100% before the assessors leave your building.
There's no retest, nothing. You have to fill in the gaps, and
correct.
And that okay. So
Right.
that is nice. So I guess the question is, so what? So
Exactly.
what? What's
Exactly.
meeting the standard mean for the people who live and work in King County?
Right. Well, the most important thing I want to make really clear up front was the real purpose of doing this was to make our program better. Mm-hmm. Accreditation is just a bonus. So we really wanted to use this to get to know our program, understand what we should and shouldn't be doing, and do it to the best possible
kind of focuses
standard.
your...
Exactly. Yeah. So I think the best way to answer your question is to give you a couple of examples. And let's take the area of planning, for example. Yeah. There are so many talented writers out there, and you could put someone in a room and they could develop the most beautiful, comprehensive plans you've ever seen and keep them updated, and they're great. Does that mean you're more prepared? So that's where the accreditation program looks at more than just the documentation. What they're really looking for is did you engage stakeholders? Show me you did that. Did you get their input? Show me where that is. Did you incorporate it into the plan? Show me where that is.
Okay.
Did they vet and approve
sound like they're all
of
from
the final
Missouri. They're all from
product?
Missouri saying, show me.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's where it really means something to King County, because it's, the planning process and all of that I just described is far more meaningful, enhances your preparedness more than a document itself. So another area could be training. Yep. We do a lot of training in emergency management. So again, I could have a great trainer who's doing dozens and dozens and dozens of classes every year, and that sounds great. But how do I know that that's making a difference for the program and for the people of King County? Well, what the accreditation program wants to see is, show me you've done a needs assessment and you've talked to all of these partners and you've talked to the public and you understand what kind of training was needed. Show me that you not only completed the training, but that you have qualified instructors. Yeah. And show me where you tested the skills that were taught in that training. Show me the exercise or the drill where you tested what was trained, and then show me the corrective action depending on how that drill or exercise worked out, where were the problems, and show me if you had to seek more training or whether you had to update a plan. So they're more interested in the cycle.
So they're looking at the exercise improvement plan and then what you did follow up on.
And it was, just, we learned this lesson, and that's not enough. They want to say, okay, you learned this lesson, show me what you were doing to fix the problem and then show me the documentation where that was completed. So it forces you to complete that cycle, which betters your program.
Okay.
So if that makes sense, those are kind of the best examples to demonstrate. Now multiply that by 64 different areas and a variety of things, and you can understand why this was a lot of work.
A lot. So one of the things I say, wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes. So not that you have made any mistakes, but you were the accreditation program manager when Pierce County, which was the first Pierce County Department of Emergency Management, became accredited, first one west of the Mississippi. That, I don't know, it was 5 years ago, because they just became reaccredited.
Right.
You have to do this again. What lessons did you learn in between? And one thing, this will show up on my blog, so more than King County residents will see it, and they'll say, okay, you did this twice now. What would you advise going through this process?
Well, it was no easier this time.
Yeah.
It was equally as rigorous. I think for my Pierce County experience, I was brand new to the accreditation program.
Yeah.
So as we were working through our self-assessment, I was learning about the standards. So it was all new to me. Fast forward to now with King County, I'm much more familiar with the standards.
And you've been an inspector?
I'm an assessor. I train for the accreditation program, but for some reason that doesn't make it easier either. But really the common denominator for both efforts, it wasn't about me or my experience. At each place I had the best teams that learned the standards, understood them, were committed to allowing those standards to make the program better. And when every single person's engaged in working toward that, it's a lot of hard work, but in both cases the teams came together and just did a fantastic job.
So how about putting this in perspective a little bit nationally? It kind of will explain that there's over 3,000 counties, I know, and I think there's 10,000 cities in the nation type of thing. So, what are the numbers for, if you have it for states, counties, cities that are accredited like this?
The accreditation program really started with a state focus.
Yeah.
So initially that's where a lot of the work was done. So there are 31 states that are accredited.
And is Washington State accredited?
No.
Not yet?
No, not yet, but I know they're working toward that and are very interested in pursuing that right now, which we're very excited about statewide. District of Columbia, so Washington, D.C. is accredited. And then with the addition of King County, there are 38 local programs. That includes both counties and cities that have been accredited.
How many again?
38.
38 out of?
Lots.
What I say, 13,000. So that's
right. Yeah. And a majority of those are in Florida.
Okay.
To be very honest, they've had a big push.
Well, they have a big push, and they have funding tied to accreditation.
Exactly.
And which here in Washington State, there is no significant, really no state funding at all for cities and counties.
Right. And now the accreditation program is branching out even more, and they're starting to do work with federal partners, so Army Corps of Engineers, the Centers for Disease Control.
Amtrak, which is a quasi-governmental private sector, just became accredited.
Right, and also higher education. So a lot of universities are now starting to pursue this, and there are 2 programs internationally that are accredited. So it's a program that I think things are just getting started.
Okay. So what do you see as the future for accreditation? And I know we have a little less than 3 minutes left here, but what about the small jurisdictions? Because a lot of those 13,000, maybe it's a part-time job, 1 person, 2 people.
Right.
It's not 18.
Right. Well, what's nice is they look at a program. So they're not looking at a specific office. They want to see how a program interacts, which means they're looking at a lot of different people. If someone has a 1-person emergency management shop, let's say, well, I don't have a finance division to cover the finance standards. Well, the county or the city probably does. So as long as you show how you coordinate with that entity who provides that service, that's what they want to see. So we've had some very small jurisdictions be accredited.
When you say how many full-time staff would they have?
There have been programs accredited that have one full-time staff
Okay,
person.
that's pretty amazing.
Right. So as long as they can show, again, if their program is strong and they can show that they're coordinating with
Yeah.
all of these entities,
Yeah.
they're going to be able to do it. So you
All
don't have
six-
to have a staff of 18 to achieve this.
All 64 standards.
Correct.
Okay. They don't
Yeah.
sleep much. No. Okay.
True.
So the other, again, last question here, and you talked about briefly. I tell people that it's changed somewhat as far as careers in emergency management. In football, there's called walk-ons. You know, they weren't drafted. They weren't. They don't have scholarships. They just walk on, try out type of deal.
Right.
That a lot of those jobs are gone, I think, because of the education. Would you agree with that? Because the people with a second career are now competing against people with education, or does the experience that comes with the 20 years before that matter more? I mean, what would you tell people listening?
The experience matters.
Yeah.
It still really does. And I kind of came in midstream. As I said, my undergraduate degree was in journalism,
Yeah.
of all things, and political science. So I did media relations in Pierce County for the county executive's office. But I happened to go work in an emergency operations center when flooding was happening. So I was one of the draftees.
Yes.
Someone
Draftees, okay.
noticed that I kind of liked that work.
Happened, ended in about 1971. Oh my God. Yes.
So I was brought into the discipline kind of mid-career, and it was the best thing that ever happened. So now, as I've moved up in emergency management and I'm starting to hire people, it's been a really nice mix. Actually, the people who have had lots of experience are going, oh, maybe I should match this up with a degree now. So that's the perfect storm when you have that level of experience and you're going and getting that education. For those who are pursuing the education right out of high school, going into college, get that degree, that's fantastic, but really make a concerted effort to volunteer, get an internship, because as you and I both know, the reality of dealing with emergencies is often far different than the theory that's taught in the classroom.
And we're out of time. So, thanks for being on the show.
Thank
you. Get this lovely token.
My fantastic.
And may your death not be a disaster itself. Thank you for coming on the show. Congratulations to you, Walt Hubbard, the director at Office of Emergency Management for King County, and then all your staff, because you all deserve, and other agencies within King County all had to work too.
Yes, this was all of our regional partners, and we have an amazing staff. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jody. And for you folks at home, this brings us to the end of our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Learn more about what King County is doing to become better prepared, what you and others can do to become better prepared for disasters. And if you're going to get prepared, today is a great day to start. Have a great day and tune in again soon. Bye-bye.